Hi, Kathy, and hi to everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Kathy, how are you? We seem to have a little bit of confusion on timings, folks. I think when we first put this out, it was a 12 noon start, and in fact, Creativity Lab 1 was a 12 o'clock start. It did get changed to 12:30, and that was in the invite and the link that hopefully you well, you must have got it yesterday, otherwise you wouldn't be here, would you? So the link that went out did say 12:30. So apologies if that's confused the issue. So if people do want, by all means, stick in here. Me and the panelists are going to have a little chat for 10 minutes just to prep a few things. If you did want to dip out and come back in for 12:30, that's absolutely great. So do feel free to do that because we'll just be chewing the fat, Kathy and I, for 10 minutes, and you probably don't want to listen to
that. Hi, Darren. I'll come back at 12:30.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. So yeah, it's a chance to grab a coffee and a sandwich if you haven't already. How are you, Kathy?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yes, yeah, busy and busy. I'm just going to stop the recording because people probably don't want to listen to this bit. for those that can't make it. And hello and welcome, lots of you, 90 people on the call already. Thanks so much for joining Creativity Lab 2. So some of you may have been on Creativity Lab 1, which was lots of fun. And so the plan is to do 6 of these in what I'm calling season 1. For season 1, we'll have 6 episodes. So if you missed the first one, it's available on Catch Up. Today's the second one, and we're talking obviously about creativity. But I think when we started planning these sessions, in my head, I always wanted to have a session where we had creative and advertising and branding agencies on because, I've had the benefit of working with all the people on the call today and I've learned a lot from them. I think one of the problems is now with a lot of public sector in-house teams, they may not have the budget to have the opportunity to work with creative agencies. For those that do, great, do tuck into that. But for those that don't, I think today's session is really helpful because I think, as I say, we can learn a lot from them just in terms of their approaches, their tips, their tools that they use, and I guess their lessons. There's a lot of experience on the call. Notice how I said experience?
Yeah, thanks, Dee.
There's a lot of experience on the call, multi-talented, multi-award winning, creative agencies, so thank you for that. So for those that don't know me, I'm Darren Caveney. I'm creator of something called Comms 2.0, and actually if you look, the Comms 2.0 logo, which has been around for 10 years now, has the little strapline underneath, Creative Communicators, and in fact my consultancy is called Creative Communicators Limited, because for me comms is all about creativity, and one of the things I do worry about a little bit is if people could go on mute, that would be great. Feel free to come off mute when we do the Q&A later on. So yeah, if you could hit the mute button just for the opening session, folks, that'd be great. So yeah, I've always felt that creativity is a really big part of what communicators do. I think what's happened is as we've got more strategic over the years, though, for me, there's the danger, coupled with the kind of demands that you've all seen in the past 15 months, that the creative bit can get lost, that you haven't got the time or the space to even think about being creative, and you're churning out, 50 things instead of 6 really brilliant things. So for me, it's almost like let's take a bit of a stock take about all things comms and creativity and what can we learn from the panel today about it. So yeah, so I mentioned housekeeping. So as I say, we are recording the session. Please put your questions and thoughts into the chat area if you've just joined us. Put a big capital Q next to any questions because Andy's going to be monitoring the chat and he can pull out questions and we can put those to the panel. So our panel today, really pleased. Effectively, we got all the people that I wanted to get. None of them said no, so that was good. So we've got John Harrison and Rich Elwell from Birmingham's #1 creative agency, One Black Bear. Now, I've known this pair now, I think it's 20 years, you know. We're probably due an anniversary drink.
At least.
And the first time I walked into their offices, I felt slightly daunted because they were very show-offy. They had a wall of awards, and I thought, oh, they must be good then, you know, and they actually really are. Next up, we've got Kathy Carl Bonamini, who I've known for 3 or 4 years now, and Kathy does brilliant work. And Kathy is the owner of 2 agencies, and she's also an award winner. So we'll hear from Kathy in a moment. And then finally, we've got brilliant Alan Oram from the agency Alive with Ideas. Alan will again introduce himself in a moment, tell you all about his background and his approach and his work. You might know Alan for his work on Comms Unplugged. So if you know about Comms Unplugged, if you've ever looked at the website, or if you, in fact, you've ever been, all of the branding, the website and everything is Alan and his team's work. So thank you to Alan for that. So I'm going to pass on to the stars of the show because I'm just the warm-up act. So we'll just get a quick 30 seconds from each panelist just to introduce themselves before we get into the meat of today. So Rich, would you like to kick off first and tell us who you are?
Yeah, I'm Rich Elwell, co-founder and creative partner at One Black Bear in Birmingham. We are an advertising agency. And yeah, that's me.
Brilliant. Thank you to Rich. Next up, we've got his partner, John. Hiya, John.
Hello. So yeah, obviously set up One Black Bear with Rich back in 2003, but we've actually worked together since 1991, which we think makes us the longest standing creative team in the country.
Wow.
Of continual working together. So yeah, 30 years of working in partnership and sitting in a desk configuration that faces each other. So it was kind of weird when lockdown hit and suddenly we didn't have to sort of sit opposite each other anymore. We had to sort of stare at each other on these horrible screen things. So, but yeah, we've been doing this for a few years.
Fantastic. And obviously some questions there for you perhaps later on about how you keep that going, because that's an incredible length of time, isn't it? To stay friends first and foremost, but then to be able to work together effectively. So
you just hide all sharp objects.
Fantastic. So we'll hear more from you in a moment. Next up, Kathy, would you like to say hello?
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathy, and I launched Amply Group 5 years ago and DigiKind actually this year with Dave Warzel, my partner in the UK. And we launched DigiKind because we wanted to help the high street. So that's pretty exciting. And we're doing some really cool projects locally. So it's really good to be here and in such great company.
Brilliant. Thank you to you, Kathy. And last but not least, Alan, would you like to say hello and tell us a little bit about you?
Hi there, I'm Alan, creative director and co-founder at Alive Ideas. We've been around since about 2008. Got a similar sort of story in some ways to John and Rich, in the sense that set up Alive with a friend that went to college and uni with, lived with when I was at uni, and then have spent the rest of our kind of working days sort of mixing and moving in and out of each other's sort of working environment, and then set up in 2008 together. So yeah, really sort of interesting crossover there in terms of how we've come about. But yeah, we get involved with all sorts of work, which I guess we'll go on to in a sec.
Fantastic. Thanks, Alan. Just a reminder, folks, if you could stay on mute just for this section, but please switch your cameras on because we'd love to see your smiley faces. So we'll kick off then first. So John and Rich, I mean, I know all about your work, but it'd be really good. So I think for this first section, what we'd like from each of the panelists is kind of 5 minutes from each agency, just really to give us a quick overview about your work, you know, the stuff that you're most proud of. But I guess for us, you know, any lessons, tips, insights, because for me, I honestly think there's a lot of similarities from being an in-house communications team, which can feel a little bit like being an in-house consultancy with a bunch of other teams and directorates and colleagues to work with. I think there's a lot of similarities. You know, you all must deal with as agencies working with multiple clients. So I suppose what I'm really keen is you know, to share with attendees, you know, your top tips, your advice, your insights from the whole creative process. How does it work best for you? What works, what doesn't? What are your biggest lessons? And, what do you think would be useful to impart on, a team of people on the call today? And I'm just checking, we've got 113 people on the call. They're going to be in really busy teams who are probably a bit battered and bruised after 15 months of COVID. And for me, it's almost, how do we make sure we're still creative? And that, that's easier said than done, isn't it? So we'll kick off first with John and Rich, just to, in your own words, kind of trying to answer that really long, rambly question.
Do you want some sound bites about the agency first?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've just noted down a few, John, if you want me to just pick up on, as John said, we've worked together for 30 years. So we teamed up as a traditional sort of art director copywriter team, which that's how the sort of advertising world was kind of founded really in the 60s. So we kept to that model. So we sort of fast forward how many years, we worked together all the way through college. We left college, we worked at an agency. We became creative directors quite early. I think we were about 27. So we'd only graduated a few years earlier and we were already working on quite big accounts. During that time, we won sort of national brands like Puma, Rightmove, things like that. And so I suppose it was quite a sort of, it was quite a steep learning curve in terms of what we did. And then, so we spent a few years at an agency. We won a few awards. We got that under our belt. And then in 2003, we decided to launch on our own. And it was literally just the two of us and a few others, or a couple of others. And we had a sort of a vision for the creativity for the agency. And yeah, I think that's how we sort of came to be in 2003. And then when you look at what we've worked on as an agency, we've worked with a few famous faces. Worked with Roger Moore, we've worked with Ian Wright. So we had a taste of the sort of big time as well, I suppose is fair to say. But we've also done stuff for the small and the medium as well. And we're never really sniffy about what we work on. If it can be creative, and they've hopefully got some money, we'll work on it. We think we've achieved quite a lot really as a small agency. We launched one of the first nationwide campaign for nurse recruitment on social media, which got dazzling results. And that was the first time that had ever been attempted. And I think one of our proudest moments as an agency, aside all the creative work, is we did a campaign for National Express that actually nudged the share price. So it just shows you that the power of ideas can really, really impact the business world as well. And I suppose the umbrella on that, the testament to it, is we do stuff that works. We've got a long tenure with clients. The average tenure is about 5-10 years of working with clients. And in doing so, we've won about 180 awards internationally and nationally.
I mean, I think the other thing is, we're a creative agency led by two creative blokes. And that's quite rare. You normally get, you can sometimes find one creative and one suit. Don't get us wrong, we surround ourselves with very, very competent and very good strategic and account handling people. But ultimately, we don't have a paymaster that says we've got to make a certain amount of money out of things. So creatively, it's just, if the idea is good, let's do everything we can to make sure it happens, because we haven't got an FD in a corner saying, well, who's paying for this and why aren't we making enough money out of this, and why aren't you filling in your timesheets properly? Because we sort of live and breathe this thing, because it's the only thing we know how to do. We've done it, the old phrase, we've done it man and boy, but it's true. We always said we have to keep the business going because we'd be absolutely useless at doing anything else. So that's what keeps you going through the numerous recessions that we've faced over the years. In terms of how do you keep creative in moments like the last 15-16 months, there's no lying about it. It's tough because, like I said, we've spent an entire career with us being able to sit opposite each other, bouncing ideas off each other, and you think that's where it all comes from until you're then suddenly forced apart, and you realize actually you still bounce ideas off each other, but what you do is you do it annoyingly at 4 a.m. with a text message, and then find out that person, I'll text Rich at 4 a.m. and annoyingly he'll text me back at 4:10. Saying that's rubbish, get some sleep, we'll talk about it in an hour. And then 10 minutes later he's texting something else. And that's, and it's just, you adapt. And it's just how, it's difficult to say, how do you be creative? Because I don't know, it's what we do. It's like saying to a lion, how do you sort of chase a zebra? They just do. There's no rationality to it. It's just what we do. So it's a tough period at the moment, but creativity is possible.
If anything, if during the period, just to pick up on that point about how do you stay creative, I think creative people are naturally sponges. I think you watch comedy, you read. I think we've all been doing a bit more of that with box sets and watching things that perhaps previously we hadn't had time to do. So I think if there's anything, I think if you can keep a little scrapbook, if not physically, if you can keep a little Pinterest board in your head, that always helps. And I think we do that. Little bits of film, even little bits of dialogue, and you think, oh, I'll use that one day. And I think during lockdown, there's been a hell of a lot of telly watching and reading and things like that. So I think, in essence, that might have helped us actually.
That's a really good point. And so if people haven't got one, always be with a notebook. And I remember although obviously as an agency, you've adapted to the digital world of the past 20 years. I know you two don't go anywhere without a pen and paper. Yeah.
Pencil.
Keep
really old school.
Brilliant. Thanks both for that. I know there's a lot of points you've made there that we'll probably come and tap into in terms of questions from attendees. So thanks both for that. Going to go across now to Kathy. So Kathy, tell us 5 minutes or so, a little bit about your work, how you've developed, how you've got 2 agencies. Is one not enough? And your thoughts around creativity and kind of lessons to impart on attendees today.
Sure. So thanks so much for having me. And I agree with the pencil and notebook thing. I always have mine, and I have my iPad too, because I'm an illustrator, so I'm always drawing. So I'm not from around these parts. I don't know if you can tell, but I am from California, and I met my partner in DC, and followed a very cute British cop to the UK, and here I am with yellow walls now. So I'm very pleased with that. But I have 2 agencies because when I came to the UK, I launched Amplia Group because I wanted to have a business. I needed to do something. I was putting the free and freelance and thought, I'm going to start an agency. And we work across all sectors, do all sorts of work from advocacy to doing, just about anything creative, we'll do it. And then I started working, I launched DigiKind because I wanted to help the high street. I wanted my creative to be meaningful, and I wanted to do something to help because I was seeing what was happening on my high street, and I wanted to do something about it. I can't just sit by and watch it. And so when I came to the UK, I was, McCann had hired me to do the rebrand for one of their healthcare agencies. And, I won some awards. We were shortlisted for a Campaign Live for our the videos we'd done for the Business Improvement District. And I just saw this opportunity to do something more in the UK. And so I felt like the Amplia Group work in the US was great, but I wanted to do something specifically in the UK and focus my efforts here. And so I launched DigiKind with Dave. And we've been focused specifically on high street rejuvenation and utilizing all of our creative efforts to do that. And what's different about us is that we're utilizing digital and tech for good to really differentiate ourselves. And so, I really agree with what the guys have just said about, creativity is always around us and it's always happening. We infuse creativity into all of our projects. It's not just, we're going to do a communication strategy and that's it. It's creativity flows through everything that we do. And, I'm a former public servant. I launched a government agency in the US, and they're still a client. And I used to be a marketing director for Capgemini US public sector. And so my background's really diverse. It's really varied. And I basically take all of my creativity and infuse it into everything that I do. And so whether it's doing an integrated branding program or building a brand ambassador program or doing a film or, any kind of engagement we work on, there is, it's infused with art and creativity and this approach. And that's why people approach us and ask us to work on the projects that we work on. Right now, we're working on some really ace campaigns for the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead. You'll see, we've done a lot of different campaigns throughout the engagement. The overarching engagement is rejuvenation of the high street and reopening and recovery. They hired us because they wanted that creative spark that we bring to everything. But the latest bit of it is infusing a tech for good AI to the creative. So I illustrated these guards. They're about 6 foot tall. They're on the high street. They're also on a digital campaign. But you can actually go talk to them with your phone and engage with them, talk about the weather if you want, talk about what you want to see on the high street, but it's all about building community. And you can ask what the bus times are. It's really, really cool. But you can talk about, you can engage citizens, and it's all about democracy and bringing people along and building community. And so it's really about infusing everything that we do with tech, creativity, and bringing all of that together. The way that we approach our work is really starting from the end and then going to the beginning. So I look at the audience, look at the outcome, and then trying to make our creative work, looking at it as problem solvers. And so I try to look at the goal and then work backwards from there. So I believe that creative has to be effective and has to demonstrate results. And so my example that I like to use when I talk to our clients is like a UNICEF ad. You know, there's always this emotional hook or this emotional piece of storytelling. And then you have this rational component at the end where you've got a phone number to call. So it's like you can always have this approach when it comes to creative where there's this meaningful piece that we're creating for you, but there's this call to action at the end where it demonstrates an outcome. So that's kind of our approach to things. I'm really proud of the work we've done as Amply Group and as DigiKind. I kind of mashed them together because I've done the work, but it's, you know, we work in a really agile way. We're all coming together as a team to do the work. You know, we pull on different threads to bring it all together, but we've worked on the Dorking Business Improvement District where we won our Comms 2.0 award, which we're really proud of. That was an integrated campaign. We did training. We always do training with our clients so that we can empower them to be as creative as they can be as well. So for example, with the Dorking bid and also with the borough, we've done these like lunch and learn sessions. So we're working with the businesses and with the comms teams, the internal comms teams, to teach them resilience, how to do social, how to do branding, how to do time management, and to kind of like build that resilience within them so that they can rebuild and recover on their high street. And I'm also doing that same approach with the Wildlife Trust right now. So Our Bright Future is a organization within the Wildlife, helping them with the rebrand right now, and I'm helping them with a brand ambassador program. So I'm doing the rebrand, I'm doing all the art and illustration for it, and then we're doing a whole integrated campaign. I'm actually going to I've done training sessions for their team, and then I'm going to do training sessions for the actual brand ambassadors, and then help them to kind of teach them to fish as well, so that we're building that resilience within the organization. So it's not just us as the agency doing all the work, we want to actually help them to give them those skills so that make my work be meaningful and make a difference. So that's it. That's us.
Fantastic. Thank you to Kathy, and well done on all of that. So just quickly now, before we kind of get into questions, over to you, Alan. So tell us a little bit about you, your work, and kind of your approach to being creative.
Thanks, Darren. Yeah, just a little bit. I'll be very brief about Alive. I guess, as I mentioned, been around since 2008. Work across private sector, public sector, charities. Broadly speaking, our work's in four sections, or four compartments, if you like. That ranges from strategy and planning across to content and copy, into sort of all the visual communications that you would expect from an agency: animation, web, infographics, you name it, all of that great creative visual stuff that you'd expect. And then a bit of workshops and training, which is always good fun as well. We're fortunate enough to have clients from Brazil to Basingstoke, two very different places with very different sorts of work coming from both ends of those. Lucky enough to have clients that just pop up from all over the place, which is sort of mind-blowing really in some respects. Bearing in mind that much like John and Rich, two fellows that started up an agency thinking that they were going to try and do something different, and people seem to like it, which is pretty cool. In terms of how we approach our work, we want the desire is there to do something different, and to do that we need to understand how people normally go about tackling that particular creative challenge. Doesn't matter where it is, whether it's online, offline, or whatever it is. How are we going to do something different that stands out? That could be through strategy and the channels that are used, or it could be the tactical implementation and the visual approach that we take to things. That really we're trying to just find that slight point of difference that's really going to make a piece of work stand out. That is 100% a collaborative approach across our team and the client as well, because they've got expectations. I think the client comes to us, client comes to every agency, I think, wanting something different, something different to what they could do internally or by themselves. It's interesting, someone from another agency said to me one day, your name, Alive Ideas, kind of puts a lot of pressure on you, doesn't it, as an agency? I'm like, yeah, but we're creative agencies collectively. So if that pressure's not there to deliver great creative work, then maybe it's time for a change. That's what we should be about as an industry. Made me smile as people were talking about awards. I can proudly say we've never won an award, which might seem a bit weird, but we've never entered them. So we just don't sort of go for that sort of thing. And someone's beating me up at the moment, a friend and a colleague, who keeps sending me links to different awards and saying, you need to do it, you should be there. And we probably will one day. So a little bit about creativity. I think the bit that someone mentioned about being a sponge and soaking things up, I sometimes refer to there being three parts, three spires to creativity. So there's the inspire bit, which literally means the in-breath. What do we take in? What do we see? What do we experience? What do we go out and watch, or we'll stay in and watch at this point in time? The perspire bit, we're going to put in the hard work, the hard miles, working hard, late nights, early starts, thinking long, hard. When you're out with your dog, it's still there churning around in the back of your brain. And your dog might have a great idea when you're talking to him as well, because that's how it works. And then there's the expire bit, all of the stuff that you flood out from everything that you've just done, what you've taken on board, what you thought about, and what you put out into your work and your channels and all of that sort of thing. So the three spires of creativity is how I kind of think about it. That's kind of me in a nutshell, I suppose, with a little tip.
I've just jotted those down, always with a pen. Brilliant. Thanks for that. I can see we've got some questions and some ideas and thoughts coming into the chat already. Just an initial one from me, which actually I think the brilliant Catherine Richards, who's a bit of an internal comms specialist down at the DVLA in Swansea, she's asked a similar question to the one that I had first, which was, obviously after the past 15 months, you've got teams, all of us probably on the call, a little bit battered and bruised. It's been a busy, difficult, demanding time. What are your top tips for those busy in-house comms people who've come through 15 months of COVID? We're still with COVID, but there's all the other stuff that's now kind of being dumped upon really busy teams. So what is your kind of, for each of you, what's your top single tip for getting that creative spark back if you've perhaps lost it somewhere along the line in those 15 months. And yeah, we'll start with you first, Alan. So yeah, your one big top tip about getting your spark back if you've lost it.
I think we need to, the biggest thing that anyone can do when you're trying to sort of think creatively is to get started, right? The biggest fear that will get in the way is fear. Is this going to be right? Is this going to be wrong? John even mentioned it earlier about texting Rich in the middle of the night with a rubbish idea. But the fact that he said that like there's almost that, well, I'm going to put it out there anyway, and let's get the ball going, let's get things moving. And actually, it's not wrong if it starts a conversation, and you never know where that one thought is going to go and where it's going to bounce off. We in this time, we've used Slack probably for the last 4 years, but certainly over the last 15 months, it's become a different space where our team just throws stuff in. We've got a channel called Inspiration. People throw stuff in there all the time, and it becomes a reference point, something you can go back to. It's that scrapbook, it's that notepad, it's all of those things that's live and moving all the time. So get started, share your thoughts, and then that will just grow and lead to other things. I think you've got to try and take away some of those barriers about time and money. Let's put those to one side for a bit.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks, Alan. And yeah, I think you're right. It's just that digital scrapbook, isn't it? One of the things we started doing after Creativity Lab 1 actually was Andy's opened up a space where we are actually encouraging people on the call today and others from the community to put ideas and examples of their best work during the past 15 months. What we plan to do is Creativity Lab 4 or 5, perhaps, we'll invite those people to come and present their work, because I think, yeah, there's a lot of great work out there that we know about, those that, you know, have won awards or shout about it. There's also a lot of really great work that sometimes goes under the radar, and we're really keen to capture some of that and showcase it in a forthcoming Creativity Lab. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that after today. So yeah, thanks Alan for that. How about you, Kathy? What's your number one tip for getting your spark back if you've lost it?
I just dropped a link in the chat. My friend sent this to me, and it's all about, for me, it's just finding time for yourself to take care of yourself. Like you're like a soup bowl, and if you keep on giving all the soup to everybody, you're just not going to have any soup for yourself. I know it sounds really silly, but just finding something that really matters to you and doing it. For me, it's painting. I paint, I do a lot of artwork, everything. I do an original drawing and then I digitize it, or it might just be a storyboard something, or whatever it is. I have to do work for a brief, and that's the work. But then for me, it's just, I have an easel in my kitchen, and it's just, that's my thing, and I do it. And so just find the thing that you love and that you're passionate about, and just don't worry about any judgment. Just go for it and just rock it out, and don't worry about judgment. Or, some people started crocheting like crazy. I knitted or crocheted like 17 blankets during lockdown because it was just so cathartic. I paint, I just find a creative outlet and I do it. Maybe it's walking, maybe it's reading, maybe it's writing, maybe it's just some other random weird thing. Just do that thing. Don't worry about judgment. Don't give yourself such a hard time about it. But I dropped this link in there about, you've got all this time in the day. You have to sleep, you have to eat, you have to, make time for yourself, and don't worry about anybody else.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? A little bit of selfish time is actually a really good thing. Yeah, no, that's really helpful. And Kathy, if you haven't already, you must talk to my good friend Sally Northeast, because you are kindred spirits. Sally Northeast is a really talented artist as well, and one of my colleagues organising Comms Unplugged, which, by the way,
I do admire Sally's work.
Fantastic. Yeah. Comms Unplugged, quick plug, if you're not aware of it, check out the Comms Unplugged website, and some big news coming up soon, because it is the best communications event there is, period. So, Sally, I've got the plug in. Hopefully I'll get a gold star for that. And it's not for profit.
Certainly do, Dee. Nice work.
Thanks, Sal. And it's not for profit, so I feel like we can do that. So, yeah, so John and Rich, over to you then. Yeah, kind of perhaps individually, I guess, would be easier. What's your number one top tip for anyone on the call that's feeling like they've just lost that creative spark? So, Rich, you dig in first.
I think what I've been doing, and I think I touched on it earlier, is if you can jolt yourself with doing something a bit different, or through lockdown, we've had a lot of time on our hands, and if you can, I find that if you walk away from your comfort zone a bit and do something that perhaps you haven't watched because you thought it was crap, or read something because you thought it was crap. I mean, because I went to such a crap school, I started reading Greek mythology. It just gives you a bit of a jolt because you never did it, and you just start reading it and think, and then it completely changes your mindset or something. And if you come back to it, and I started watching like all sorts of stuff on telly that previously I'd written off, and you start thinking, well, I'll watch it, I'll give it a chance. Some of it's some stuff that you just would never watch in a million years. And I think it's just, if you get out your comfort zone and you do stuff that kind of, I don't know, just fill your mind with stuff. Because I find sometimes if you keep doing the same thing, that can be the biggest enemy of creativity. So when we were creative directors, back at the old agency, we used to sort of try and spend as little time in the office as possible and get out to, I know this sounds really pretentious, but you get out to cinemas and museums and just fill your head with stuff, and make sure you're always trying to fill it with different stuff.
Yeah, it's so true. I always remember you two saying a couple of years back, and you've got these nice offices in Brum, haven't you? But I remember you both saying that you can't work in the office because there's too many distractions and it's too noisy. And I was sat there thinking, yeah, this is a really nice office. I'm working at the moment in the middle of a call centre. That really is difficult to be creative. And I think one of you said you preferred to go to, a coffee shop because you like the humdrum of, that just background noise of a coffee shop. And I think, Rich, it might have been you said, I'd rather go to a library or an art gallery somewhere where I've got real quiet and I can really begin to think deeply. So, yeah. How about you, John? What would be your number one top tip for someone that's lost that spark?
I think it comes back to what Alan was saying, which is you just got to get started. I mean, I always say to clients and things, when we're trying to talk about budgets for things, it's only you say, right, that's my pencil. That's what I'm using to think with. The idea might be there, or it might be there, or it might be there. I don't know where, but there's somewhere in this pencil is a really good idea.
Yeah.
But I've got to get through all the shit, get it down on paper and screw it up and throw it away and text it to Rich at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So I can get to the good idea. And that's basically, it's not easy. There are some people who, they just get this divine inspiration, and we all get it, which is we'll be working and working away on a brief and you think you're never going to crack it. And then suddenly it pops in. You think, I don't know where that's come from. I don't know how I've got to that. I wasn't even thinking. And that's another thing is stop thinking about something for 5 minutes and you can guarantee you'll crack the brief.
That's a really good point. I think don't be afraid of crap either, because we all do it. We all do it to get to the promised land. We all do it. Even the biggest talents in this business still do it. There was a lot of crap before that Guinness White Horses commercial was filmed.
I think the beauty of it is the benefit of working in a team like myself and Rich have done for so many years is we're not afraid to tell each other that something is crap. We're also not afraid to hear it.
Yeah.
Now, it must be far tougher if you're a lone person working in either a creative department or working in a government organisation or whatever it be, where you've got to then take ideas that you're not sure whether they're any good or they're not. And you've got to take it to someone who doesn't necessarily appreciate it. And if they think it's crap, you're suddenly putting your job on the line because they think you're crap. And that must be really, really tough. So if you can find someone you can confide in who's not going to judge you, who's not going to be your boss that says, well, actually, I don't think you're very good because you've just presented something to me that I don't think is very good, then you've got to find someone who you can say, look, this might be crap or it might be genius. Can you just tell me what you think of it? Because we all convince ourselves, and we have it with clients, and clients come to us and say, I've had this idea and I want to do this. And you listen to them and you just say, what a load of garbage. No, we're not doing it. No. And they get offended because no one else will tell them it. But because we've had that culture of, we've never been afraid to just pin rubbish up on the walls. When we're actually in the office, the entire department is encouraged to think of something and put it on a wall and let other people walk past and say, oh, that's interesting, or I don't get that, or I didn't think that was the brief, or that's rubbish. Because that's how you instantly get stuff. Instant either condemnation or gratification is a great way to actually move forward. And you are being bombarded, but it is the old quote, isn't it, of how do you eat an elephant? One mouthful at a time. That's all you do. You just got to take it on that basis. Everything is solvable. You've just got to get started and keep on working through it and try and get some sleep.
So yeah, a couple of hours a day, that enough for you?
Yeah, that's normally about right.
The great enemy, one of the great things when you think of something at 3 a.m. and you convince yourself it's great, you go to sleep, you wake up and it is awful. That's good. That I think everyone should do that. Don't be afraid of it, because if you think that everyone gets to that good idea, that at the first call of asking, they don't.
Yeah.
They really don't.
Yeah. I think there's some really wise words there, and I think don't be afraid of crap. That could be the title of my next blog post. So thanks for that, Rich. You have to invoice me. I know there's a lot of chat and thoughts and ideas in the chat area. So Andy, I'm gonna come across to you, and what's occurring in the chat area, Andy?
Yeah, there's some really good points actually. I think it leads on really nicely from what we were just talking about, not being afraid of crap, but and also presenting your work to other senior leaders as well. So I'm going to pick on one from Alison here. Alison says, I'm interested to know the panel's thoughts on how to get buy-in for creativity, both investing in it and the ROI and impact it can deliver. Alison says, I work in-house and don't always find it easy to achieve that buy-in. Fantastic point. So yeah, so the panel on that one, actually go straight back to you, John, on that, actually go the other way around. So John, to you.
If you ever find out, let us know. Yeah, I know. If you're working in house, you're probably going to struggle with budgets, with timings, with messaging, with far too many people having to have a say in it. It is really tough. We have struggled for years, and I think everybody has in the industry. Where I think you'd probably, if you're in house, you're looking at agencies and thinking, oh, they must have such an easy life because it's just a creative environment surrounded by creative people who want to do creative things. Unfortunately not. And yeah, you end up, I think that the biggest killer of creativity is the person that can't say yes, but can say no. And that's always the challenge. And we spend our lives in meetings with people who can say no. They can't say yes, because as soon as it gets to the point of someone saying yes and giving someone a green light, oh, it's got to go upstairs. And you're not allowed to meet the people upstairs because they're far too important and too busy to be spending time on their marketing strategy, of which they're going to spend £10 million on. So I have to go and take it through. So, even though what they say is, I'll crush everything that you've got in front of me now and get you to redo it. I'll get it to what I want it to be. And then I'll take it into the upstairs, who then say no as well. And you think, well, you never presented my ideas. It was just, and it's always so tough to get people to buy into it. But we've got to remember the creative economy is worth billions. It is important. And I think, there's a very much you come across it where people treat it as the colouring in department or other things that just really, really rile me, as the fact that they sort of try and belittle what we do. And you think, but we earn more than you, and we're responsible for budgets that are far exceed most things that you actually get involved in. So please, can we have a little bit of respect into what we actually do? And you expected, if you're in-house, to be the little wacky one, which it's like, oh well, you expected to wear daft clothes or have funny coloured hair because you're creative. Well, no, that's bullshit. The most creative people we've ever met look like accountants, and then maybe there's a trick in that. Maybe the trick is to become one of them in your physical appearance, and they start to believe you more. But how do you get buy-in? If you ever find out, let us know.
Anything to add on to that, Rich?
Just remind me the question again.
Sorry.
After that, that was quite a big answer.
Yeah. Did John go on for that long? Yeah. How do you get buy-in for creativity and being able to justify the ROI of it, basically?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much all been said, but I think you have to keep knocking at the door. We've got clients that we took on a few years ago that we started off as quite sober, unadventurous, and what you have to be careful with is if you're not careful as creatives and as agencies, you get the impression that all clients want to turn you into domesticated animals, and that's very dangerous. Creatives should stay wild and keep challenging the client, because that's how you earn your money. But we meet a lot of clients and we have to push back a lot, and they want to put you in a zoo. They want you to be well behaved and pick up mannerisms that are, and do the work that they want you to do. And you start to think, well, hang on a minute, it's kind of comes back to that. It's the Henry Ford thing about, the faster horse versus the car invention. So I think we have to make sure that as much as appease clients and satisfy clients and keep clients, that we have to keep pushing. And actually, you know what, we've achieved something with that over the years, where we've got clients to change behavior, be braver, and see the results. So I mentioned something before when we did a stunt and it affected the National Express share price. That's a massive achievement for us and for a FTSE 250 company. You have to keep pushing. There's no other way. If you give in, then you might as well hang up your pencil.
Great point. Alan and Kathy, anything else to weigh in on this before we ask the next question?
Yeah, I would say what you have to do is to set the expectation for the client, and you have to ask them what's important to them. And you have to, that's why we always start from the end and go back to the beginning to say, okay, so what does success look like for you? And then we'll help you get to that point. So, I mean, I've had clients question me on why are we doing an ad buy for this film to promote it? And so, I had to write a budget justification to explain why we were doing ad buys for the film. We ended up doing those ad buys, and then we ended up getting the result we were looking for. And then we actually had to, there's a lot of history there in terms of why we actually were able to do the films, but it was a win, because we were able to explain what the return on the investment was to actually do the films, to do the ad buys, and to get to where we wanted to be. But it was just asking questions and understanding a little bit more what the hitch and the giddy up was for the decision maker. And if we were able to answer those questions to set the expectation, then we could do the creative to get there. So it really is, I think, about, I agree with pushing boundaries and to being brave to get the client to where we need them to be. But it's about, I think, understanding what does good look like for them and what does success look like. The reason why some of the best ad agencies in the world are able to push and be disruptive is because those decision makers understand that there is a result that they are looking to achieve, that they're able to get, achieve a great success or to meet those expectations. And so as long as you can define what success looks like and demonstrate that your great creative will get them there, then I think you'll be able to move the needle. And that's what I do. I just ask why, and then try to demonstrate with quantitative and qualitative metrics that will get them there.
Very good point. Yeah. Sorry, Darren, did you want to chime in, or Alan as well? Did you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, sure. I'm just echoing what Kathy said there, really. I think being able to tell that story of, well, we're going to take this approach and this is what we're going to achieve by doing it. And actually we may have road tested some of our thinking with perhaps some of the target audience and things, just to make sure that it's going to work in the way in which you hope it's going to. But I think it's about having a good story behind the work that you're putting forward. If we're talking about a specific piece of work, if we're talking about creativity as a whole from a kind of organization-wide perspective and a sort of culture of the organization, there needs to be an appetite there to do it. I suppose it's also about winning the trust of those senior people and making sure that they believe in the work that you're doing, and you can back it up by, you know, previous projects or, you know, examples of other campaigns that have been run in a similar way that have had the right kind of impact that you're looking for. Yeah, so that's.
Yeah, nice advice. I'm just going to move on to the next question, actually, because Leanne's asked one that seems to be popular and makes a whole heap of sense. So, for public sector in particular, Leanne's saying, I need to be mindful of accessibility, inclusive content, outcome/output strategic comms. What's your biggest challenge meeting briefs, especially public sector, where this is the center of the aim of the work? It's a complex question, so I'm going to let anyone put a hand up for that one. Once.
Yeah, one wants to. It's in terms of an inclusive approach. It's been massive in the work that we've been doing in terms of you know, recent months, and it was always there before. But I think there's a greater focus on making sure that we're being more inclusive in the work that we do and making any of the work accessible as well. So being up to speed with all of that ultimately is, if you know your audience, you've got to make sure it works for all of them, whoever they are and whatever they're, you know, wherever they are in life, and making sure that it's relevant and accessible. So I guess it's just being sure that we're up to date and up to speed on anything that is relating to inclusivity, accessibility as well, particularly from a technology perspective, and that we're giving people access to the work that we're doing across all of the appropriate channels for them that works for those individuals. Yeah, hopefully that helps others get going with it.
Cool, thanks.
I think, yeah, inclusivity and accessibility shouldn't get in the way of an idea.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's, you know, ultimately the idea rules. You know, the inclusivity and the accessibility, it becomes a delivery mode, which, yeah, that's further down the line. First thing is, you've got to creatively crack the idea. You know, we do a lot of stuff for, you know, local government and things like that, which, yeah, there are certain things you have to do, but ultimately you've got to crack the idea first. And if you obsess about the sort of the stuff that's further down the line right at the beginning, I think you're just going to restrict your thinking too much.
Do you think there's an element of making sure that it's going to work? That idea, though, is going to work across all channels for all people. That's the thing, isn't it? There's a bit of a sense check early on in the process to say, if this doesn't either translate very well or go into audio as opposed to a visual execution, it's just making sure that it's good.
The problem is, Alan,
I
was just going to say, just to pick up on that point, is if, you know, if something that's good for everyone ends up good for no one, if you're not careful, do you know what I mean? You can sort of start tick off a million hygiene factors, and that sort of dominates the whole creative process. So yeah, I'd pick it up where John left off. That a good idea should transcend it, and we should try and find a way of making it work right across the board.
I mean, we often get on a brief, you know, this has to be either translated or, you know, the audience we're reaching has got English as a second language, or and you know, has got, so don't use any word plays, don't, you know, you often get things like that, but it shouldn't really get in the way of the idea at all. And then in terms of, you know, accessibility, that becomes more of like I say, an execution side of things, to make sure that it's readable, that you're using correct colors, correct typefaces and sizes, and and as you say, there's an audio version of it as well as a visual version, and vice versa. All these things, that becomes sort of hygiene factors further down the line.
Very interesting. Kathy, because obviously you're working with public sector at the moment, Royal Borough, for example. Is this a factor in consideration of your work that you're doing? Anything else you'd like to add to this?
It is, and I've been thinking about this issue because there's this new program that's being rolled out called D-Entrepreneur, where I'm learning a lot about different founders who are rolling out their businesses based upon accessibility. Sorry, my dog is waking up, so who knows what's going to happen next. I'm learning about different organizations and businesses who are rolling out their programs when it comes to accessibility. And I think that organizations aren't thinking enough about it. So I think it's something that we probably should be paying more attention to, just in general. So I've just been actually just listening a little bit more than speaking, because I think it's something that as agencies and as organizations in general, I think we should be paying more attention to it, because I don't think we do at all as a society. Think about inclusivity. I was reading a piece recently about hidden groups and how they're not really hidden. They're in plain sight. We just don't really pay attention to them because we don't have to. And so I think it's really important for us to not think of them just as a side that, you know, they're not in plain sight, so we don't think about them. I think that we should be looking at every group all the time and just pay attention because they're there. We're just not looking at them, and we should be. So that's just my take on it. That is my disruptive, controversial take on it.
So probably got time for one more question. I want to fire this round everyone. So yeah, what's the best work you've done for the least amount of money? Often working in a local authority, there really is no budget. So this is another toughie. So lots of fun questions for you guys. So who wants to take that one first? I don't know if Kathy, if you want to chime in as we last spoke to you.
You know, I feel like there's always a way to be creative. I found that I've always been, he's a big dog too. There's always a way to be creative, and you can find ways to do things. I find opportunities and obstacles. What's the best piece of work? What is it? I'm sorry. The best work we've done with the least amount of money. I mean, I've done things for free that have been pretty ace, I think. You know, I do a lot of free stuff. You know, I was able to get, you know, I kept a school open once for nothing. So that's probably my best piece of work. Literally kept a school open, got the highest amount of, you know, petitions on for the entire country signed based upon a piece of work I've done that's still ongoing. And that was completely done for free because I do a lot of free stuff. So that's probably my best piece of work.
Yeah, not bad, that one.
That was like this. That was for free.
Amazing.
And I also do stuff for Uprising UK. So I have to give them a shout out if we're going to do free stuff for Uprising UK. They're incredible. And I do free stuff for them all the time.
Nice.
Go look at them. They help young people. Young people are really struggling right now. So I do stuff for them too. They're ace.
Amazing. Amazing. You might want to drop a link in the chat actually, so everyone can.
Yeah, I will. I will. Thank you.
Alan, over to you.
Yeah, well, can echo what Kathy said. Really, we get involved with some free projects sometimes, and actually, you know, right from the start, it was something that we chose to do to give back some time and energy into some of that stuff. And actually, one of the things I talk a fair amount about is that creativity as such, or creative thinking, you can do for nothing. Right, you can do when you're out walking your dog or doing whatever you want to do. You don't need to pay us to do it. That's, you know, you can get out there and do it for yourself. So if you put budget, as often people do, in the way of coming up with ideas, then you're definitely not going to have any ideas to work from. So I try and separate those two a little, but so yeah, so free is the lowest budget, but we've done some work for a charity just recently called NEA, who are sort of help people that are in fuel poverty, based up in the northeast, and lovely animation bringing to life a story of how they had supported their one of their sort of people that they work with. And we did that for a reduced budget because it was a piece of work that we really wanted to help with and be involved with. So yeah, it's the thing about the work that we do, I suppose, is that, you know, when you see a project that you want to be involved with and you want to help, as the person that can make a call on whether we get involved in that or not, we're lucky to be able to do it from time to time.
Nice, fantastic. So John and Rich, I just basically treat you as one person. So do you want to kind of close the session with some of your thoughts on that question in particular?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we've worked with a charity for over 10 years now, a homeless charity, where we're doing work constantly for them. It's, you know, it wins quite a few awards. We basically, it works for them as well. It raises them money, it raises their profile. It does a lot of good for them on that front.
I was actually going to mention for them, John, I was going to mention Donate Your Homepage.
Yeah.
We did what we did for St Basil's youth homelessness charity. What we did was we wanted to do something kind of low cost that would get a lot of attention. So what we did is we sort of targeted some large companies, people like PricewaterhouseCoopers, people like that. And we said, look, for one day, can we take over your homepage of PwC and put a St Basil's page on there? And actually we got enough companies to do it that just for one day, they all donated their homepage. And so if you went onto any of their website, it would take you through to St Basil's and tell you about the plight of youth homelessness. I think we're quite proud of that one.
I mean, we're currently writing 5 films for them, 5 little short animated films, and there's no budget for it. I mean, we've managed to get an animator to do us a favour at £500 a piece. So there's $2,500 in total. We're donating all our time and effort into it to help them out, and getting them, getting an animator sort of. But it's because we work with that animator quite a lot that we can call on him, as on his sort of sense of good nature to help us out and to help out the charity. So it's always tough, with budgets. We always ask our clients, can we have more time and can we have more money? That's everything we constantly ask for, time and money. And you can't always get it. But if you can build up relationships with people who can support you, you can then get them involved when you really do need a favour. And it's not necessarily always about charity work. I mean, there's some paying clients that we have that have got zero production budget. But because we build up relationships with people throughout many, many years of doing this, you can sometimes probably say, look, I have got zero money for this, but I want to do something because I think it's going to be brilliant. Can you help me? And more often than not, they agree to. So have a good set of friends is the best advice for how to get good creative work out with no money.
Love that. Great point. So yeah, back over to you, Darren.
Real thanks, Andy, and thanks to everyone. And I think that's a really good point, isn't it? That St Basil's homepage takeover idea is, for me, it's such a simple idea. You think, why haven't more people done that before? But as you've always said, all of you have said this, that sometimes the simplest ideas are the hardest ones to come up with, aren't they? And there is something about the thinking and the planning and the trying things, and not that I'm PricewaterhouseCoopers, but I did it on the comms tip with, say, website one year, and you think it's such a good thing to get behind. It's really easy to do. So yeah, I think really good examples there for, what's clear is, you all do lots of good stuff pro bono for free, ask friends to do stuff. And I think you're right to really, that's the whole point of today, isn't it? We've put on an hour and a little bit training session for people, which is free for anybody to access. An hour of your collective time would probably be quite a lot, actually, wouldn't it? We probably couldn't afford it, but collectively we've come together because we're pals and it's a community and we share. And I think that's kind of quite a nice note to end on, isn't it? Before we go really quickly, 2 quickies. The cheeky Catherine Richards has asked why I've got nothing on my to-do list behind me. That's because I don't like to-do lists, because I think to-do lists are a reminder of failures, of things we haven't delivered. So I don't like them. I have that thing, I forget who came up with the idea, but the idea of each day, you have a list which is 3 things. 1 big thing, 1 medium thing, and 1 little thing. It's like, what's the 1 big thing I have to do today before I switch my laptop off, and nail that. And the other 2, if you can get those done as well, great. The other stuff, it can wait. So, and then the other point is Josephine Graham, who is up in, well, she lives in Leeds, but she works for Bradford Council. It's her birthday as well. So Alan and Josephine have shown a birthday today. So happy birthday to both of you. So I'm going to stop waffling. I'm going to say thank you to everyone that's joined the call today. I hope it's been interesting, insightful, fun. I hope you've picked up some tips and tricks about creativity. Thank you to the panel, who I knew would be brilliant. And I've certainly scribbled lots of notes and really enjoyed your company for an hour, kind of picking your brains. There's lots of comments flooding in on the chat area. So I think people are really pleased that you've taken an hour of your time to do this. I'll send an email out which kind of captures everything from today. We've recorded the session as well, so if you want to share it with colleagues, with teammates, etc., do please do that. Go and visit the website addresses of all three agencies as well. Go and have a look at their work. They're sometimes shy at coming forwards. They do brilliant work, so go and have a look at what they can deliver. I'll put their links and things, etc., into the email that comes out to all of you. And I would say, go and grab a pen and paper, and hopefully today's inspired you a little bit. Go and write down, you know, 1 or 2 things that you might do as a result of today. And what was Rich's line? What was your line, Rich, just to end on? I loved it. Your line about crap.
Don't be afraid of crap.
Don't be afraid of crap. I think that is a beautiful way to sum up and end the session. So thanks everyone for joining. Don't be afraid of crap. Go away and do some brilliant creative work. Thanks to you all, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Cheers,
Cheers,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
guys.
Bye.
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 Thank you.